clouds, and it's dark. There's the moon.
Hi, this is Jay, and this is Single Car Garage, and this is my 1966 Dodge Dart GT.
It's a windy day today, so this car still has a variety of issues. These seats, for one. Believe me, it's kind of comfortable with the pad on there. This is the worst of the bucket seats. But a couple of the other things that are a little annoying, and I say a little annoying because they're really not that big a deal, but a couple of things that I just kind of want to fix. Look at that, windy. It's actually Halloween right now. One, and I have a number of videos on this, is the instrument panel, where I tried to get this to work, and I actually did a pretty decent job of getting it somewhat operable, but could never get the temperature gauge or the gas gauge to work, and that's why I have aftermarket ones down here and a temperature gauge over here. The other thing is that there's no defroster tubes, the tubes that go from the bottom of the heater outlets or the defroster outlets up to these vents up on the dash, and that usually is not a problem. I just sort of want it fixed. Did use the car last week, and it was one of those days where you kind of needed defrosters, and I didn't have any, so I had to keep wiping it with a paper towel. And I saw one lady looking at me, gave me the thumbs up. She knew that I had an older car and probably didn't have operable defrosters. Anyway, I am still also tackling a leak in this car. As you can kind of tell by these water stains, I'm getting a leak. Luckily, these pads didn't stop most of the leak. It was a little wet, and it's still a little wet right here. I'm going to get a fan on that at some point, but I'm pretty sure that the water is leaking from the door. This is all wet here. This is all wet here, I should say. And I believe it's probably the door seal or the window seal up here. This has always been a little funky, but I don't think it's there. I think it's actually probably here. It doesn't happen all the time. It happens when, I guess, there's like a wind-driven rain like there was yesterday. Normally this isn't a problem for me because I keep the car, I used to keep the car in the garage. I'm actually getting the car back in the garage. That's a story in itself, and we won't go into that because it has something to do with family. But I think I got that rectified, and the car will be going in the garage for winter. But anyway, today, blah, 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 I keep talking. I'm going to try to work on this dash, get these gauges out, because I have some news. You still with me? I'm sorry this is so long. I'll edit it out. So from a company called premium-decals.com. It's a Canadian company that actually redoes the circuit boards for a variety of different cars, and I'll show you this in a second. You can get this also on what's that website? I can't remember the name of them. Classic Auto or whatever the name it is. And they actually sell it for cheaper, but when you tack on the shipping, it's actually cheaper to go right to Premium Dash and Decals. They're a Canadian company. Did I say that before? And I kind of like that at the moment. No explanation needed. We all have our thoughts. And the other thing we got here, and this is from another company called Cold Hose. I think they go by a different name, but I'll put the website in there. Nostalgic Air Parts. And I got 3 foot of 2.5 inch hose and 3 foot of 2 inch hose. This adapter. Now I haven't really broken this down yet to find out where I need this adapter, but I saw a number of posts and somebody was saying that this is what they bought and this is what worked for them. So we're going to replace those. We're going to put on the new instrument panel circuit board, and I'll bring you back. So here is that circuit board. The old circuit board is a different type of material. This is a fiberglass board, and the failure point on mine was these pins. They were all falling apart, so you can already tell that this is much more stout, and looks to be like really good quality. Very happy with this. It wasn't super expensive. I think it was about $153 or something like that. I'll get you the cost in the comments, but that's the part that we're going to be swapping out. All right, to do that, we kind of have to dismantle the entire dash, which isn't too difficult. I'll set you up on a platform here so you can watch, and we'll go from there. Also, I guess with all this stuff out, it'll be easier to reach the hoses. I'll take out the glove box, the surround in here, and should be able to manipulate those hoses a lot easier. So I figured actually the inspiration to do the dash panel was basically because I bought the defroster tubes, and I figured, well, I'm going to have everything apart. I might as well change that out as well. Problem with this also, I should have mentioned, is the little bulbs in here, which I swapped out at one time, but they're some of them aren't working again. I think that they're just not making good contact. And the other inspiration to get that dash panel circuit board swapped out. All right, so the first order of business is to take off my little trees air freshener. Now basically the first thing is to kind of pull all these knobs off everything. That's pretty straightforward, just pull. The wipers and the lights, they're a little different, and I'll show you those when we get to them. And then the rest of it, also the ashtray that sort of doesn't work. Here's an interesting little thing. I found these in the car while I was cleaning. That one looks a little newer, but here we got an old match case. What else do we have in here? Anything interesting? Sort of service tag thing. It's a baby? Question mark? I'll have to read that. I never looked at that before. What else do we have in here? An old key. I wonder if that fits. I didn't even know I had an extra key. So, an extra key. What else? This was actually when I got the car. I believe my recollection is this was still filled with ashes. It looks like I have an original trunk key. I know that's not going to work because the trunk lock was busted out on it, so I had to put a new lock. But I wonder if it works in the glove box. Yeah, I still haven't found the key that works in this glove box. And I'm not sure if it's supposed to be the ignition key that does that, or is it the same as the trunk key? Does anybody know? But none of the keys seem to work in this. It does fit. I wonder if it's just locked up. Anyway, there's that. What else do we have in here? Take it out, be easier. We have a gas, probably this is a gas cap key. And then we have some various leftover nuts, probably interior trim screws. So I'll keep an eye on that in case I miss something in the dash. All right, so we have to also take off these little, oh, that one's loose anyway. They have set screws. Did I lose that one? No, sorry. And then take this other one off. Put that in here, just make sure it's safe. And I think I have, yep, now it's set in here. So we'll take that off as well. So I'm going to remove the radio. This is just getting those nuts that hold the radio in, and this is a 9/16 socket. These are usually finger tight, so take those off. What I say about them being finger tight? Got a little more leverage on that one. Yeah, I know what it is. The socket is not deep enough. Now I'll just alright, with the socket extender halfway in, we can get that right enough leverage to get that out. Alright, I'm just going to lift up on the back of the radio to loosen the tension on it. So I just had the radio sort of hanging at the moment, leaning on the console. Next thing for this mid-center section is to remove the cigarette lighter, and that unscrews from the back. So I'm going to do that. So this was best achieved by actually opening the door of the car and laying down on the front. You can see though there's the connector for it, and that goes on this little stud right there. And then basically this just screws on to the back of this part right there. So this part right here, and that pinches in between. Easy for me was to just stick my thumb in there to create tension and then unscrew this from the back. And then this should just pop right off. Pop, there it goes. Shiny chrome in the back. All right, with that off, there's a couple of screws. One here and one here. So take those out. Is this interesting watching me unscrew a screw? Now, I'll throw these up here, but what I like to do is once I have all these screws out, I'll just go back and throw them right back in the holes that they go into, just so I don't lose them, because I do that. There's a couple more over here, here, and here. So I'll take those out. As you can see, these screws have sort of a black face, so that they match into the black border here. So that's actually loose right now, can you tell? With just those screws removed. Now there's a lot of connections on the back, and that's easier done by taking out some of these things from underneath, especially the ignition. The lights not so much, from what I recall. Also, another helpful thing is, and what I'm going to do is drop this steering column down. There's a little bracket here. I don't know if you can see it. I try to point over my finger there, and on the other side, this thing right here. If you take this out, the steering column will move down. It'll give you a little extra room. And I think they're 7/16 or ½ inch. Yeah, They're 7/16" bolts. So I'm going to take those out. I also have to remember on this side that I'm using this bolt as a ground point for my gauges, for the gas gauge and for the water temperature gauge. So I'll have to make sure I put those ground points back. Okay, without that bracket in, and that was in this way, you can see that the steering column will move down quite a bit. This gives you a whole lot extra room to pull this out and kind of lay it down. Oh, and I totally forgot to do one important step, and I'll show you that in a minute. But anyway, if you can see in here, where's my hand? This one is sort of tight. Can you see it here? It's a little hard to see. I'll put it, where's that hole? I'll put it here where the hole is. This is the connector right here. That goes on the back of the ignition switch, and I just pulled that off. Now I believe this should sort of just pull right out, but let me go do the one thing that I forgot to do. Be right back. I'm going to take the negative side off the battery so it don't cause any shorts back there while I'm working on the car, which can happen. Ask me how I know. So I'm going to take off both, because I actually want to put this battery on a charger. It ran it out of juice, and I think it's needs a bit of a topping off. All right, so there we go. Okay, so this is still hung up, and I forgot. You have to unscrew the speedometer cable, and that again doesn't have a lot of leeway like the ignition switch connector. It's sort of tucked back in there. It doesn't come out very far. So let me take the speedo cable. Again, that's best done on the floor underneath the dash. So I'm going to unscrew that. All right, with the speedo cable, disconnect it. I know, please don't hate me about these. We're going to fix this all up. This pulls that out far enough so you can hang it down. And now it's much easier to get to the rest of these connectors. These are for the wipers and the what is that other thing for? I can't remember. I'll let you know when I take them off, but I'm going to pry those off. This one's a little bit challenging. I'll tell you about that one once we get to it. These are easy. These are the pins for various parts on that board, and we'll just reuse those. These I kind of had to doctor up because the pins are all screwed up, and that's one for the gas gauge, and that's why we have this sort of mess here. But we're going to fix all that up, I promise you. And how are we going to fix that up? Now, in this little secret compartment, there should be, if I remember correctly, along with a bunch of extra keys and stuff. I don't know what the heck that is, but there should be. Oh, is that the connector? I guess that's the connector. But these are the pins for that connector. There should be 4 of them. So I hope I have that somewhere. Well, we'll get, oh, there are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I didn't leave myself much room. I should have done that. But anyway, we're going to fix that connector. I hope. I just noticed this. Got a day and a night mirror. Isn't that fancy? So for prosperity's sake, and to make sure things go back on the same way, there's 3 connections right here. This gray one goes there, and they can only go in one way. Then there's a single one that goes in that single post. And then there's this black one And again, they're sort of idiot proof. They can only go on one way. We have a connection over here for the idiot light for the oil level, which just pops in and out. And that's basically about it, except for this guy. And I don't really remember how I got this off, so I'll let you know when I take a look at it a little deeper. It's hard to do with one hand. Oh, and how could I forget these guys? This is, I marked them black and red, but this connects up to that ammeter gauge, alternator gauge. And this provides the power for everything. So be careful with these. If you did forget to disconnect your battery and you cross connect these, bad things will happen. Also, make sure when you're putting this back together that these are really tight. I made that mistake one time and the car would not start, and finally figured out it was one of these was loose. A lot of people, I don't know why, I have to look it up and provide more information. But apparently this is a weak point in the system and it can burn it. Apparently this can burn out this gauge sometimes, and then I don't know if fires happen or just smolders wires, but a lot of people delete this gauge. They just connect these two wires together and then I just wrap them up in some tape or whatever. I'm not going to do that. The alternator gauge seems to work, and I'm just going to have to trust that that's okay. So we're going to take off these connections too. Also much easier to do is to just take the connector off the back. There's two little clips here, one on this side and one on the other side. But just to point it out, to replace the switch, you still need to use that little button to remove the knob. And I'll show you that. Let me get some things disconnected. So to get this off, what you have to do is sort of spin that little dial in there. I'm not going to take it off because I don't really need to, but I did do this before, and I switched out this a headlight switch. Basically what you do, and I think I did it with a pair of pliers or my hands or a big screwdriver, I can't remember, but it basically just screws into the back of this switch. In fact, I'm going to actually tighten mine up. It's a little loose. All right, so here is the back end of this board. These are just lights that just come out. And they illuminate different things. This one illuminates the high beam indicator. The other ones here are for a combination of either turn signal. And that one's burned out, I think. Where is it? I think I have some of these downstairs. They illuminate either the turn signals. That looks like that one's burned out too. And then these up here are the gauges. These are just the set screws to ground out the unit and to hold the board. And that's it. This is a, I guess some sort of radio filter. This is expensive little guy. But basically, I've found that this is a 12-volt system, but the gauges are 5 volts. So this is just sort of like a little step-down transformer. So it brings the voltage down, a voltage regulator. I'm not sure what it's called. But anyway, it steps the voltage down from 12 volts down to 5 volts for those gauges. I was going to get a brand new one of these. I don't even know how to test it. I probably could look it up. I would imagine it's probably okay. But I'm going to reuse this hopefully, and that'll still work. These are about 50 bucks. So even if the gas gauge, this is a problem and the gas gauge doesn't work, I still have the aftermarket ones. So I guess that also kind of grounds out this guy. All right. And I actually went on and figured out all these. These are turn signals, and the other ones are dash lights. I don't know what the P is. I forget. Parking lights, maybe. So I'm going to unscrew these. Okay, these two, to remove this board, they use a 1/4 inch nut driver for these screws, which are 4 of. And then for the gauges, the gauges and these connectors that go to the battery eventually use a 3/8. So I'm going to take out those gauges. And then that should release the board. Now I do want to point out that I did try to reuse this board, and most of the board was fine, but the pins are really loose and not making contact. On these I was able to solder them, and I have a whole video of this whole thing, and I was actually able to solder these to get them tight, but these just would not cooperate. I couldn't get the pins. I think I only got one to kind of steady itself. So I wound up just putting little pigtails off of this. And then I also had to do a jumper here because one of the contacts was bad. So I sort of just kind of rigged everything together. And it did work for a while. I do remember though that I had put my hand underneath the dash one time, and I did short something out, and that's why it must have blown out a couple of those bulbs. But like I said, everything did work. It's just that I'm tired of this being rigged up. So here's a comparison between the two boards. Exactly the same. Again, this is fiberglass. This material, I don't know if it's Bakelite or something like that, what they used to call. This is much more robust. This is sort of floppy and cheap because they didn't expect it to last 50 years. So I'm surprised it lasts as long as it did. So just putting the nuts back on the gauges. Just going to do this loosely until I get all the other nuts in, just to make sure everything lines up before I tighten them down. Easy peasy. Where are they all? These are the grounding screws. I make sure this is grounded. This is some sort of casted metal. I think they call it pot metal because whoever designed it must have been smoking pot. All right, so that's all the bolts. We're gonna snug that up now. These don't have to be crazy taut. Just to tighten them up. I don't even use a wrench on this. But you might want to give them just a little bit of a snug, just so they don't short out. That is your ground, so that's important. You do the same thing with the gauges and not going crazy with the tightening. I feel that you can do most of this just with finger tight, but I am going to just snug them down. So I got the dash out and everything. I brought it inside. I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit, put the new board in. I had the great idea of trying to get these guys out, these little vents up here, because they're sort of all dried out and white looking. So I figured I'd try to take those out while I had the dash off and repaint them. But whoever came up with that idea, I think it was me, it was just a bad idea. They have two mounting nuts here that are plastic and another mounting bolt here that's plastic. I got two of them off. They're 9/16. But this one is, the nut is wedged against the flange that comes down, so it's hard to get a socket on. And I have some thin-walled sockets, but guess which size I don't have? That's right, 9/16. So can you see this is what I'm trying to tackle. And I can't get a socket on it. So I've just been trying to get an open-end wrench on it. And of course there's a little plate here. So you kind of have to like inch this off a little at a time. And like I said, it's loose and I'm moving it. But since it's one of those plastic nuts, it's like fighting me every single time. So hopefully with some patience I can get this off. Why did I start this? Action packed. So it did finally get that off. I think the most interesting thing about this whole part was seeing the original color of the dashboard up here and how dirty and sun-baked the rest of it is. Pretty crazy, huh? So we got one more. I guess if I did one, I can do the other. Where is this thing? Let me show you what we're playing with. So here's what the underside of that looks like. And like I said, they're not really threaded. They're these speed nuts, I guess they call these. Where's my finger? So you really have to like unscrew these all the way. So good news is that these fit in fine here. These are 2.5 inch. I don't know why they do that. They have a 2.5 inch outlet and a 2 inch outlet. Maybe it's the 2.5 goes here so you get more air on the driver's side. That's the only thing I can think of. This is also cool in the back. You can see the original color of these plastic and what they've turned into from the sun and old age. I'm going to try to paint these. And the hard part is probably going to get these back in with those speed nuts, but I mean, even if they just kind of sort of just sit up there, I don't really care, to be honest with you. If I only get one speed nut on there, oh well. All right, let's see how hard this one is. Oh, another thing I should say is I bought this adapter. This is like a 2 inch adapter to 2.5, but as you can see, unless this is a different diameter, and I don't think it is, I'm going to have to come up with some sort of plan to marry these two together. I'm thinking just some Gorilla Glue and then some duct tape or something, because that's where the pipe is going to fit into. So it almost looks like it could be a vintage stereo, a piece of equipment, doesn't it? So did eventually get this guy off. I think I showed you that. Today I'm working on the other one. I got one bolt off here, or nut. I always call them bolts, but they're nuts. These plastic speed nuts. And there's another one here that I've gotten most of the way off. I took it most of the way off on hand tight. It's the hardest one to get to because the controls for the heater and the defroster are right here, so it's kind of covering where that nut is. And then there's one here that is the difficult one. There's a piece of bulkhead underneath the dash that is hard to get. You can't get a socket on it because it's so close to the inlet for this defroster tube, and you can't get a regular socket on it and socket. And I think I told you my thin wall sockets, I got everything except the 9/16. I'm not buying a new tool for that. One other interesting thing I noticed here is that the mice have been going a little crazy sharpening their teeth on this. This happened when it was in a barn. But anyway, we're continuing. Oh, and another thing, maybe some of you are saying, why don't you just buy new ones? You know, pop them out of here with a screwdriver, break the nuts off, whatever. But guess how much? Yeah, 50 bucks for a set of two. And I'm sorry, I'm not paying 50 bucks. I'd rather have the old original ones in here with the story of the mice chewing on the vent louvers than to spend $50 for something stupid like that. So if you are going to do this, to get to this nut that's here, I did actually find that you can go through here. There's a little access way. It's easier done with two hands, but there's a way to go through this side, through the hole where the radio goes, and then get a socket handle on the bottom here through the glove box. That's how I wound up getting that one nut. So that one's finally off. Now I got to do this one, and the only way I found to do that one is with a open-end wrench. It seems to be the best way to get that. I've already gotten some of it loosened, so it should come out. So I'm going to work on that now. Yeah, I'm getting onto the dash wiring fix, and I am tinning these the way you're supposed to do. And then I'm putting a sleeve over top of these, one of those shrinking sleeves. So I did two already, so I'm going to take care of that wiring that got cut. Here's a neat little thing I found while doing all this work. It's the, I guess the dealer certification of required maintenance services, and somebody did it in pencil, I think, or maybe it's pen and it just faded, but I'll do a blow up on this. But they did actually have the dealer service done for the entire 60 months, which is pretty cool. I can't really read the date on here or the mileage, but at least it was serviced well in the beginning. Well, I finally got this guy out. Again, pain in the neck. I could use stronger words. While I was at it, I figured I'd take out the center speaker. Looks like that this part is deteriorated, which is looks like it's just a covering. And there's some of this stuff, which I imagine is some sort of sealant, so it doesn't rattle. So I'm just going to peel off this paper, and it does have a little flaw right here. This paper is very thin. I'm not really worried about it, to be honest, but it is what it is. It's an old car. Probably can get these. I'm going to check to see how much, just for the heck of it. All right, ready to put in all the components. I did wind up painting these, and they do have some splatter marks on them. I guess I had some old spray paint. Hopefully you can see. I can't see because the sun is like beating down on my head right now. Anyway, I'm getting the defroster tubes. This is the 2-inch. This is the 2.5 inch. This one is going to go over this side. That one goes behind the dashboard and then comes up right here. I hope you can see. It's very bright. Sun comes out. Oh, there it goes away. Cloudy day, halfway cloudy day. So I'm going to connect that and try to get this screwed in. I also did try to clean up this dash area as best I could. It's pretty well sun-baked and stained, so I don't think I can get that any cleaner without painting it, and I'm not going to paint it. it's going to have to do. And so it's able to get that hose on this carrier, on this vent. Hopefully you can see. I can't see it all. And then this will go down in here. To tell you the truth, I don't know if I'm if I can get to the nuts, I'm going to put them on. If it turns out to be another fiasco where I'm working out here for a half hour, 45 minutes to get nuts on this thing, I'm just going to not worry about it because they actually are pretty snug. So we'll see. I'll let you know what I do. Okay, I didn't totally cheese out. I got 2 of those nuts on here and 2 of those nuts on here, and they're not going anywhere unless I flip the car.
I found these inside the car too. It's an old service tag. It actually says 1966 Dart at the top and then baby ?
Well, hello everyone. So a recap video here. My camera, the phone ran out of power midway through that project, which was kind of a little more daunting than I thought it was going to be. So anyway, I did get everything back together. What is this little story? Let me tell you about that. So I got everything all back together and connected the battery and was going to test things out. Noticed the turn signal wasn't working. So I'm like, oh great. So something was messed up. And then I went out of the car for a little bit and noticed that there was smoke inside the car. So quickly I went and took the battery terminals off because they were loose anyway. And what I discovered was actually the turn signal blinker. I don't know what it's called, a relay, whatever. It's the thing that makes the sound in the car. Well, the negative wire to it burnt all the insulation off. I guess it must have been mouse chewed or something and had a little bit of a bare spot, and that ground it out with something and caused the insulation to burn off this. Luckily, the only thing that happened was the wire was damaged. So thusly, I had to cut off the tape going through the wire bundle, found the end of where that ground went into, and it wasn't damaged all the way back, so I just cut out the bad spot and replaced it, soldered everything, and then used the shrink tube on everything and wrapped everything up as best I could. Once I did do that, everything was back to normal, and the turn signals worked, and everything was glorious. So I'm back in the car, so you can see it's all back together. Glove box back in. Shiny red outlets. And let's see if they work. Think you can hear that? So I have defrosters now. Turn signals. Lights do work. Wheel light works. High beam indicator. You can't see this, but it works. It's that little red light on the dash right there. Probably can't see it. And wipers. So everything is cooperating. Any weird thing is that there's like a flasher button down here, and it only works flashing when you have the turn signal engaged. So I'm not sure what's up with that. Maybe it's the flasher for the flasher unit for that. I don't know. That little module. Bad news, the gauge, the gas gauge is not working. So I think it's either the gauge itself or that little modulator I was telling you about, that step down thing. The only other thing that doesn't work, oh wait, does the radio still work?
He was on the bye week, but the Birds made a trade yesterday to get more help on defense.
yeah, you got a safety. The radio still works. The only thing that doesn't work is the cigarette lighter. And I don't smoke, but I do like to put in this little gadget here to charge up my phone when I'm out and about. So that isn't working. Hopefully that's just a fuse. I'll take a look at that. But otherwise, the whole project was pretty much a win. Big thing for me was getting these defrosters working. The secondary is that all the lights on the dash are working, and that looks really nice. Nice to see the speedometer when you're rolling. I did wind up cleaning up these wires back here a little bit. There were some wires hanging, and I cleaned those up. So today I got a couple more things that I want to check out. You see my list here, because I get so many things I forget. So what do we have on here? First one is to check the lighter fuse. It's a 20 amp fuse. There is a smell of gasoline, and I think that it's leaking up near the fuel pump. Hopefully that's just a loose hose. We'll check that. And also notice that the coil is slipping in its holder. It feels like the coil is too small for that holder. I'm going to take a look at that. Check end play. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Then I want to vacuum the car. I don't know if I spelled vacuum. VACUUME, is that right? Or is there two C's? I don't know. I'm going to get gas and then go to drive. Yay! All right. Okay, the thing I wanted to talk about is end play. This morning I was watching a very informative video from Jamie at Dead Dodge Garage, and he was changing out the chunk of a 8 3/4 rear, putting in different gears. But then he was talking about the bearings and also end play on the axle. One thing that I never did was check the end play, because I had no idea about it. So I'm probably going to take the wheel off and just feel if there is any end play on that axle I wound up taking out in one of the other videos. And also he was saying to make sure that you grease your bearings, because the gear oil, there is a seal in the axle tube that blocks the gear oil from reaching the bearings, and that you're supposed to grease the bearings. And I was like, oh shit, I never greased those bearings. I had no idea that you had to do that. But luckily enough, I bought two bearings at the same time, and I didn't replace this one on the passenger side, because the only reason I changed the bearing on the on the driver's side, I didn't change it. On the passenger side, I changed it because that wheel getting hot and the brake getting hot, I thought maybe the bearings were bad. But anyway, that was such a pain in the neck to do that I didn't really need to do it on the driver's side. But the good thing is that these bearings, I looked them up today, they're sealed bearings. And I actually opened this up and took a look at it, because I was like, well, you know, I'm just going to have to take the bearing off, or the axle out, and grease those up. But these are actually sealed bearings. If you can see, if you take that off, and if you look at this, there is actually no way to grease these. So they're already greased at the factory, so I didn't have to worry about that, thank goodness, because I was like, oh my god, I've been driving all this way with the new bearings, and probably put on thousands of miles. I'm sure something would have happened before that if they did need to be greased. But anyway, I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, I never sealed those up, or never greased them. But luckily these are sealed bearings. I looked them up. They said that they are sealed bearings, so didn't have to worry about that, thank goodness. All right, I'm going to do some little things, and I know this is getting long, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to get through my list and see what happens. Okay, like everything, this job took 10 times longer than I thought. But I did tighten up the fuel lines and the clamps that are on the rubber part. I also mounted this coil. It was floppy in that holder, and I remounted that. That was a pain in the neck too, if I should tell you, but that was like leaning on the gas line down at the bottom, so I wanted to get rid of that. I should probably hook up the battery, because I'm just about to go get gas. Need to tighten that up. What else? All right, for my list, I got check lighter fuse, and I did. The fuse is perfectly fine. I have no idea. There's no power to the wire for the lighter. I don't know what happened with that, but I can't figure it out. I took the dash all apart. Check gas link near fuel pump, did that. Secure coil, did that. Check end plate, I did not do that. I did not vacuum the car. I'm just about to go get gas, and I have to drive there, so that should take care of that last part on the list. I'll do the end play another time. Honestly, I'm sick of working on it. Thanks for sticking with me. Everything still does work. Hopefully the car will start. I gotta go. Okay, the car starts. All right, that's good. A win. All right, gonna take it for a ride. It's a nice warm day. Go get some gas. And thanks for sticking with me. I know this was a long one, but I did get some things finished. The defroster still worked, and that's a win for me. All right, we'll see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe and comment below. I don't care what you comment. If you hate me, comment. If you like me, comment. If you have some questions, comment. I don't care. It's nice to get a rapport with people that are watching the videos. All right, see you soon. Bye. Look at that. All nice and bright. Yay, I get to check out the defrosters. Work, baby, work. Ew. I'd much rather be driving my 66 Dart. I just noticed this. Got a day and a night mirror. Isn't that fancy? So I did find some more of that burnt insulation for that wire that I told you about that arced out or shorted out. So this is about as much as it got before I was able to turn the ignition off. Luckily, didn't burn up my entire wiring system. I love these cars. Did I tell you I live next to a car dealership / auto repair shop? A little teaser for the next upcoming project. This is a front disc brake kit for early A bodies by Scarebird. Had my eye on this for a few years. This will upgrade the 9-inch stock brakes. Use the same spindles with these brackets where you can mount. I never noticed that. It's got the Chrysler Pentagon. You can use a combination of other parts from other car, like a Toyota Previa, which I think is the van, and a Chevy Celebrity. Like, it uses the same parts from other cars, so you can mount them on these brackets. So that's going to be the project coming up. Who knows? Maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months, but you'll see a video of it eventually. All right. Close the door on that one for now. See ya.